Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Did you all find it? So what page are you? Do you have? So today we've reached Surah al Maun. Do you have it, Rahma?
No, I can't see
She has the page.
I can't see it. It's 107. Oh.
Chapter 107. And what page number is that?
372.
Page 372 in the translation, a clear translation. So basically what we've been doing, we've been focusing on going over the Quran, and we're taking like each a chapter a week in general, because these are smaller chapters, and we're just going over some basic ideas about the chapter, like cuando fue revelado, when it was revealed, a donde cae en el Corán, que el número del capítulo, right? Y qué son los sentidos, los temas principales. So what are the major themes that we're dealing with? And what we're doing with this way, we're learning our belief, what we believe as Muslims and the character of the Muslims, but we're doing it directly from the Quran, and it's also giving us some familiarity, right, para conocer los capítulos. Right? So that's what we've been doing for the past few weeks now. Actually, I needed to send you a message because there's a woman, her name is Jacinia, and she's interested in becoming Muslim.
Yeah.
Pero ella solamente habla español.
Okay.
Si ¿tú puedes bregar con ella?
Yeah, you puedo.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sister,
Where is it?
thank you. It's over there.
It's in the.
I had to move the chair, sorry.
What chair? Oh, that's fine. The chair, the front. Okay, but it's in the regular parking lot? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Samir. So what we've been doing, Zaina, la reinita. Yo. So we're basically dealing with a basic reading, and then we're going to go into some details. So Surah al Maun, it was revealed after Surah al-Takawthur. And Surah al-Takawthur was talking about those who they make their way to the hellfire. Those people, Surah al-Takawthur is talking to us about what are the characteristics of those people who make their way to the hellfire. There's different characteristics. But one of the set of characteristics in Surah al-Takawthur, which we did last week, is that people preoccupy themselves with having things, and not that having things is bad in Islam. Being rich is not bad in Islam. Having things is not bad in Islam. But they preoccupy themselves so much with that they forget about preparing for their death. They forget about the hereafter. Okay? So this surah itself, Surah al Maun, which in general, is talking about the characteristics of disbelief. We understand that, like, what are the characteristics of disbelief? Some of the characteristics. And so part of the characteristics of disbelief is that people refuse to help those who need help, those who are needy, those who are poor, the orphan, the weak. And part of that is because they don't see that they're accountable before Allah for their deeds, right? So it's like I can ignore you. I don't, you know what I'm saying? You can be in a bad condition. So the human quality that I have when my human quality is intact is that I feel something for that person that's suffering, right? But when the heart is consumed If not thinking that we're accountable, then I can just write people off easily. That's kind of the idea. So this Surah al Maun, was revealed after Surah al Takawthur, which was talking about the characteristics of those who go into the hellfire because they're so preoccupied with accumulating wealth. This surah is talking about the characteristics of those who disbelieve, but more specifically, they're not interested in helping those who are in need, right? And also, their prayer, right? Their connection with God is not on point. So let's read the translation. So the translation said, "Have you seen one who belies the final judgment?" In other words, one who doesn't believe in the truth of the final judgment. But the translation here is a little off because right? The the idea of
Sister Samah with me. She said that you're gonna have streaming at 8:45 with Danny.
he wanted what we're doing is we're connecting the two masajid, so he wanted to have the link. I think with this one we can leave it for until next week to kind of figure out the technical side of it.
Well, when you go streaming, what do you do from your phone or from a computer? From when you use the StreamYard?
I'm using StreamYard from my phone.
From your phone. So from your phone, as a host, you can send him an invitation and then he can share with you.
Okay.
So you'll be the three of you together.
Okay.
From your phone. There's in the bottom, I think, it tells you invite.
We did that in Ramadan.
Yeah. So just send him an invitation and then when he comes in, you just accept him.
Okay.
And you're good to go.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Shukran.
Okay,
so the idea of Yawm al-Din, or the idea of Deen here, the idea here is reward and punishment. The one who doesn't believe in reward and punishment. So when we translate it, like for instance, the Day of Judgment, it gives us an idea, but it doesn't give the impact. Right? So that's the important point. So the Quran here is waking us up to that reality. Right? It is basically the idea is look and see. Don't you see these type of people? Right? It's calling us to use our sight and then reflect. Like look in the world and see these type of people that they don't believe in the idea that their deeds will be judged. That they don't believe in reward, they don't believe in punishment. You see what I'm saying? They live in life without any consequences. Right? Especially you see some of them, they get extremely arrogant when they have everything in the world. You know what I'm saying? They feel as though they own everything. They own the legal system, they own people, they whatever. There's no consequences, right? And that's the idea here was Abu Lahab, who was the arch enemy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? He was one that was in charge of the Kaaba in his day. So he had the ability to facilitate. The idea of the Kaaba, it was for two reasons: to worship Allah and to help the poor and the needy and the orphans and others. But when Abu Lahab became in charge, he would look down on the people that were needy and the orphans and so on and so forth. Remember that the Prophet ﷺ was an orphan. Right? And Abu Lahab was one that was from his family that gave him hell on earth. Right? And so the idea of Tawheed here and the remembrance of Allah and the belief of the Muslim and the idea of why the Kaaba is established is for the opposite of what we see that is being mentioned as the characteristics of disbelief or unbelief, which is to not consider the poor, to not focus on our relationship with Allah, to not be people that are kind. So that surah was revealed, Surah al Maun was revealed after the Kawthar, and the Kawthar was talking about those who they are negligent, those who they forget that this life comes to an end, so they don't prepare. Some of the scholars say that, for instance, that they say this surah was revealed in Mecca. Others say it was revealed in Medina. And that's a technical definition. We know it comes as the 107th chapter of the Quran. That means it comes toward the end of the Quran. But it was even though it comes toward the end of the written Quran, it was one of the first chapters of the Quran to be revealed. See, we're trying to get that balance out. So, and like we mentioned, it chastises those who have characteristics of unbelief. You know what I'm saying? And they withhold help or aid from the helpless and the needy. And that's the most basic form of aid that we can give to humanity. So in Islam, that's a constant. It's not a charity, like, for instance, from the angle of, the kindness of my heart. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we consider helping people like that, but remember that the poor, they have the right of zakat. It's the right of zakat. It's not. That's why translating zakat as charity. That's the school. Their transition. Can you
Our back to school night is now over. Thank you all for joining our back to school night. If you are still interested in meeting with any of your children's teachers, please contact the school and schedule a parent conference or a Zoom meeting.
We're waiting for the announcement
Thank you all
to come to an end.
for your hard work.
We have a parent teachers meeting.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's parents' night, right?
Yeah. So where were we at?
About the poor, the orphan.
Yeah, that the right of the poor is zakat. It's the right of the poor. It's not a kindness from us. It's the right that Allah gives them, that we have to respect, that they have a right to be taken care of and supported and helped. We have that big debate going on in society now. You see what I'm saying? Whether people that are in weak situations, whether they have a right to be helped or not helped, and that's not in Islam. People that they find themselves at that broken level, they have a right. You can have a car, you can have a house, you may be needy. Islam doesn't forbid you to access zakat. If you have the need, of course, you know what I'm saying. It's not somebody just taking advantage. So the interesting thing is this: that when we look at this surah in the Mus'haf, this chapter, when it comes in the Mus'haf, what comes before is Surah Quraysh, the chapter of Quraysh. And we just mentioned that the Kaaba was established for the remembrance of Allah and for the help of those who are needy. And that's the poor and the orphan, the weak, that type of thing. Quraysh, Surah Quraysh is, in many ways, is giving an honor to Quraysh, who they were supposed to be. And how it is that Allah protected them and gave them honor, and how they fell apart. See what I'm saying? Surah Quraysh. Surah al Maun is taking a direct hit on Abu Lahab, who was from Quraysh, saying basically in that time period, showing how Quraysh had distanced itself from where they're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? As followers of Ibrahim and so on and so forth, they went way far from that. And worshiping idols and not honoring their role that they're supposed to honor. You know what I'm saying? Not protecting the weak, not protecting the poor. Right. So, and then Surah al-Kawthar that comes after Surah al-Maun. The interesting thing is that it shows that there's some characteristics between Surah al-Maun and Surah al-Kawthar. We get an understanding of the characteristics of the believers and the characteristics of the disbelievers once again. So when Surah al-Quraysh is being mentioned, we're seeing the Prophet's own family and what's going on in that environment, and how it is that those people, they were helped and supported by Allah, but they fell away from the deen. And why it's necessary for Allah to send the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to remind them about what humanity is. That they went to that point of even losing their humanity and so on and so forth, and destroyed themselves in terms of how they were moving, in the world with their actions. So between Surah al Maun and Surah Kawthar, we learn a few things. So, first is from the signs of hypocrisy, our stinginess, abandoning the salah, showing off in it, and preventing people from getting the zakat, not giving aid to, or preventing people from being aided. From the characteristics of Iman is to be giving, to be focused with our prayers. May Allah grant us that, to do things for the sake of Allah, not for showing off, to have the right intention, and to encourage kindness and giving to others. You see the two qualities, two sets of qualities, right? And then Surah al Maun more specifically is also focusing, is giving us a warning on us being mindful of our salah.
Wait, I have a question. This zakat, it doesn't necessarily has to be only for Muslims, right? It can be for anyone.
In giving, you can give, even to the non-Muslims, you can give, but that's not.
I was told
That's
one
not the
time,
general.
why would I help out when I should be helping the Muslim community? Because I wanted one time to do a couple of little bags, care bags with toothbrush, deodorant, mask, hand sanitizer, and give them out to the bums on Route 440, well, constantly, and put $5 in it, And they were like, "Oh no, you should only give to the Muslim." I was like, "Well, they're in need too."
That understanding is not a sound understanding, and that came from a certain type of understanding with the Muslims. But from the angle of the deen itself and the da'wah and everything like that, the Muslims should be on the front line of supporting those who are broken and all that. That idea of, what I'm saying? First of all, they're creation of Allah. Second of all, they're brothers and sisters in humanity. And there's nothing in Islam that stops us from doing good to the non-Muslims. Right? Those are misunderstandings that people have. Now, people that oppress us, that's a whole different ballgame. But people that don't oppress us, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with us showing them kindness and, to the highest extent. Even the Quran uses the whole concept of bir. I did a series of talks on that, on Muslim, non-Muslim relations. It is on our page. You can find it on YouTube or on the Facebook page. Because those are misunderstandings that we have. And then we have the concept in zakat, mu'allafat al-qulub, to soften the people's hearts and affirm them, because there's people that draw very close to us. They may not take shahada, but they draw very close to us, and it would be easier for them to come into the deed if we supported them. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they have to, come into Islam on their own. So the surah says, "Have you not seen the one who basically doesn't believe in reward and punishment?" That's how it begins. This then is the same one who repels the orphan. That's the characteristics of disbelief. The orphan is the one who has no protection. Remember that. And who will not urge the feeding of those who are needy. And so, woe, here's the warning to all those who pray. That is, those who are mindful about their prayers. They're praying to show off. They're not. You know what I'm saying? They're not praying there for their relationship with Allah. That we don't, and that's made clear. Those who only make a show of worship, their hearts are not with it. Struggling in the salah is a different thing. But here, there's no sincerity towards Allah Ta'ala. While they withhold basic aid from others. Those are all the characteristics that the believer shouldn't have. Don't put it out there and say, "Well, that's dumb out there. We're not like that." No, we have to ask ourselves, are we like that? That's the purpose of the Quran is so it's a mirror for us. Are we like that? I knew a brother who would, he would tell me, he said, "I'm stingy." He said, "I'm stingy. I don't like to give." So what I do, he said, I try to force myself to give a little something. It doesn't necessarily always have to be money. Like, it could be, oil or candy or food or this, to get the self into the habit of being that person that has the characteristics of the Quran that describe people that have belief versus the characteristics of those who don't have belief. Some of us are like that. And in this culture, sometimes we're trained. You have your plate, I have my plate. This is my food, your food. You see what I'm saying? We begin to have that mentality. And it gets worse when people have hardship. When people have hardship and have trauma, everybody learns to I'm gonna go for myself. I have to protect myself. You see what I'm saying? And here we're talking about helping those in need. But if we're gonna have that attitude, we'll never have a way of life where we're helping each other. We always have an attitude where everyone, like we say in Spanish, cada uno tira pa su lado. Do your thing and that's it. Do you? That's huh?
But
You
if I'm
spoke
starving,
with,
how am I going to feed somebody else? If I'm starving,
different ways. You can share. You can ask other people to help. You know what I'm saying? You can pray for them. It doesn't always have to just be
food and things.
money and this, that. You know what I'm saying? There's different ways of giving.
Yeah, I say Muhammad, you went to Muhammad's job, right? To get coffee?
When?
I don't know, that's what Muhammad told me. And you spoke with one of the boys there. And then he said, Muhammad told me that since you spoke with him, he started praying now.
I can't remember.
They prayed together.
Really?
Yeah. He said you came and then you start talking to him and saying things to him. You know what I mean? And then now he says after him.
I want to give you a background, a musical background.
Thank you all again for joining us. For today, the school we need to leave now.
Where's my? Where do you work at?
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts and Kennedy Boulevard, 70th Street.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, he works there. He's been working there for maybe 6 months.
So the main idea here is the idea of reward and punishment for our deeds, so we're responsible. So the first problematic belief that the Quran is dealing with is people not believing that there's consequences for their deeds.
My dad.
That's the key. And the hereafter. That there's no hereafter. See what I'm saying?
Can they change?
That's the inshallah, yeah. People can change, no doubt. People change. And the other thing is the characteristics of disbelief. So the first thing is this idea of, denying the idea of consequences and reward and punishment, and then the characteristics of disbelief also that come from that, which are not taking care of those who are needy. So Sheikh al-Maydani, he says, Surah al-Mudaththir, Surah al-Muzammil, Surah al-Qalam, Surah al-Masad, Surah al-Takwir, Surah al-Ala, Surah al-Layl, Surah al-Fajr, Surah al-Duha, Surah al-Adiyat, Surah al-Takathur. And all this is recorded. All those chapters of the Quran that came before this surah, all of that is the idea of reward and punishment. So that it's clear in our heads that a fundamental, that the core belief of the Muslim was an important point for us to have when we start talking about Iman, that we believe in and we hold on to is the consequences of our actions. And so that's the, with that, we come to an end. So Surah al Maun is encouraging us, to believe in the idea of reward and punishment, and to believe in the necessity of helping those who are in need. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a hereafter in which we come to judgment. The Quran is teaching the same concept in different ways. Here is doing it in the context of our relationship to people that have need. How we should be, how could we even just deny the most basic thing? In the past, that was in neighbors, like you can go to your neighbor's house and get salt or whatever. That was like a given. There was no problem with that at all. You need a little bit of rice, you go get a little bit of rice. Even somebody was telling me, the whole idea of somebody needs their child watch. Okay, stay with the neighbor until I come home from work. All of that was there. That kind of helping each other out. That's similar to basic need. But now it's not like that. Now it's not like that. There's trust factors. There's people are not focused on aiding and helping each other, and that type of thing. And so the Quran is pushing us to change that type of culture. Okay, with that we end. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.